Welcome to the Narrative Mindset Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I would appreciate it if you went back and viewed previous episodes. Thank you to all of those who've been staying fast on the journey, and I appreciate you all. In the future, I'm hoping to be in the top 10 list, but we'll see. I'm in the third episode of my Rebirth of Creativity because this is actually episode number 79. I think we're almost there to 100 episodes, because that was my original bookmark, was 100 episodes, but I got to about 73, and the content I was producing just really no longer really seemed adequate for the direction I was going. It seemed kind of fake, and it just made me feel like I wasn't creating as opposed to the almost my definition of creativity. It was like I wasn't being true to myself, and I wasn't feeling good about the episodes that I was putting out. So I made a turnaround as to what I wanted to produce. And that was when I started the Rebirth of Creativity, which is based around creating what you feel and what you dream and ignoring the enemy of creativity, which is creating episodes based around what you think other people want to hear. Because that's what people normally do, and that's really one thing that tends to drive you in a different direction, because you're creating things that you think people will like, not the things that you like and you enjoy and that help you, and the listeners being a byproduct by other people enjoying what you like, and that resonating to other people and helping them out in a positive way. So that was the Rebirth of Creativity, and this is the third episode. So thank you all who have been here for that long. I want to stop and say that. I want this podcast to be big in the next couple of years. I want to be on the top 10, and I want to be recognized to a point that it's recognizable because it's helping people. I want to be recognized because people enjoy listening to it, because it solves small problems in people's natural life. So I want to give a big thank you to all the listeners who are listening and who came back and listened to episodes. Or if you're just a listener that's only listened to maybe one episode, I appreciate you too as a listener, because you're adding to the success of this podcast. If you notice, I've done this on an earlier podcast, but I did it a little bit different because I really didn't understand the whole process of creating a warm space. And not understanding that, I also didn't understand creativity, so it just didn't work the way I wanted it to work. But if you'll notice that I have music playing really, really softly in the background, and I'm trying to create a soft, warm environment, just a relaxing environment. That relaxing environment that really subconsciously taps into a person's inner self and creates a conscious, warm environment for that person. Because I pretty much know, if you heard my podcast on the radio, you'd probably cut it off. But in the realm of podcasting, it makes sense, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I've tried to understand the direction of that podcast. And we're all different, and a lot of them were conversational. A lot of them had guests and different things of that nature. So I figured I would take a little bit of a different approach and add music. And no, I'm not the first person to add music to a podcast to create a warm environment. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm the inventor of adding soft music to a podcast because I'm not. But being creative has evolutionized through the time that manhood has existed. We went from pretty much nothing to where we are now. So I haven't researched the timelines, but if you look at that particular timeline, if creativity didn't exist, we wouldn't be where we are. So creativity plays a huge part in our everyday lives. So all in all, to start off, I just want to say thank you so much to any viewer who has listened to my podcast and, who is still listening to it or who has listened to the podcast, period. I want to say that I really appreciate that, and I'm really trying to bring natural, creative content to the podcast. I'm not an expert. I'm not a what do you call? Well, I just said I'm not an expert, so I'm not, doing a podcast based on me being an expert in anything. I'm just doing a podcast and giving my personal view on it. So don't go and say, hey, the Narrative Mindset podcast said this, they said that. Nope. The Narrative Mindset podcast is giving his point of view on mental health and things that I go through that I hope people will resonate with. Because, like I said in earlier episodes, I'm thinking about stuff all the time, all day long. And it's like the podcast is a perfect place for me to get that stuff out and talk about it, And one thing that lately I've been thinking about, and I've talked about it in the last couple of episodes, is that these last couple of days since, I think it was since Thanksgiving, I've been kind of under the weather, and my TV system is Fire Stick. I got a couple of Fire Sticks, one in my room, one in my living room. And the other day, my TV took a crap on me. It was a flat screen TV. I think it was a 44-inch or whatever. So I'd work one night, go to bed, get up, I do my thing in the morning, make my coffee, make my sausage, make muffin with egg. It's homemade. I go sit down, click on TV, nothing. I think it's a flat screen TV, so the whatever that controls the picture went out. And I wasn't going to take it apart and try to fix a flat screen TV that I can go buy for $100. I wasn't going to do that. So I ended up getting one. I went and picked it up actually yesterday. Today is Sunday. I went and picked it up yesterday. And pretty good TV. It's got everything that I want and everything. Real nice. It's smaller, but it's actually louder than my other TV, because this TV I have right now is a 40-inch. I think I had a 44-inch. But real nice, real good picture and everything. But I do Fire Sticks with the apps and everything on them. So I don't really mental health speaking and how it affects people. I don't really watch news and everything, unless I want to watch it. And that's when I watch news, because there's an app on there and I can go to that app and click on it. Okay, we had a killing here or a stabbing here or whatever. and I just click on it. And if I want to watch it, I'll watch it. If I don't want to watch it, then I won't watch it. But the good thing about that is I don't have to watch it if I don't want to. It's not like regular television where, you click on whatever channel and, the news is just, it's right there. You click on ESPN, the news is there. You click on this other channel, the news is there, which can affect a person mentally because all of those events are being, kind of shoved in your face, from the news, especially with all the stuff going on. We got, no offense to the guy, I have nothing against him. You have Trump, and he's doing his thing, and which can be, a little bit hilarious. But, like I said, I have nothing against the guy, but news can be really, it can really affect the person in some ways just because, it's being shoved in your face. And then it just all depends on what you're going through also. What kind of problems that you may be having, what kind of struggles you may be having. And then you add the news or whatever is happening that, it can affect you in a way. I had a rider the other day. There was a shooting on Woodward somewhere. And, basically the guy didn't need a firearm. Let's put it that way. So it's bullets flying all over the place. I knew nothing about it. So I went and picked up some people the next day, and they had mentioned something about that's the Family Dollar. Yeah, Family Dollar, where the shooting had taken place. So I didn't think nothing of it. But when I got home, I said, let me see what's on the news. So I clicked on the news and clicked on there was a shooting. And then there was a shooting about, there was news about a shooting that had happened at that particular Family Dollar that we had just passed by. So that's what they were talking about. So, that was really, really crazy. There was one guy who, he was in a van with his wife, and he said if he had gotten to his spot a couple seconds earlier, if you look at where the bullet hit his van, move it up, a couple seconds, it would have been right there where his wife was sitting. Unfortunately, it's definitely crazy. So that the news can affect you in some ways, but it can also be it can also be a bit of a headache because you're trying to. Everybody has problems, and you're trying to deal with those problems and not get into what the news is discussing, and you're trying to just be you. But with the news the way it is, it can affect you mentally. But for me, I had been in the house for a couple of days. I think I went out, went to the grocery store, did this, did that, whatever, and I just wasn't feeling good. So I said, well, you know what, I'm just hang at the house because I'm not going to get out there and try to do my job, which is roadcasting, ride share. Jeez. But I'm not going to get out there and try to do my regular job, which is ride share, and end up, getting a customer and, maybe my stomach is hurting or whatever, and then I don't want to get involved in all of that. But I said, I'm not going to do that. So I stayed at home and just kind of watching a lot of TV. And also, I didn't know that it was supposed to snow either. It snowed about, I don't know, it's been about a month ago it snowed, and it was I was out there and it was like black ice. It was horrible. But like I said, I don't watch the news, so I didn't see that there was supposed to be a snowstorm yesterday, and so I watched that kind of come in, and I, been looking out my window all day, and it's pretty good. So at least the streets aren't snow covered, so that's a plus. As long as it doesn't, as long as we don't have a cold freeze tonight, then we're good. Because if we have a cold freeze, now all of a sudden, all of that stuff turns into black ice, which is not good. But we had that, so I knew I wasn't getting out today because I was like, I'm not getting out doing that because that's just a little bit too much right now. Plus, with me being a little under the weather and dealing with that, and then trying to get out there and do rideshare, I said, nah, I'm not going to do that today. But tomorrow, definitely be out there. You can say I took the weekend off, and that's fine. You need time off sometimes because it helps you kind of what do they call it? It helps you kind of regroup and get everything together, and kind of, get a few things done that maybe you needed to get done or what have you. So it's definitely something that people need. I mean, people always say, they always talk about, work, and, just almost killing yourself to get money. But never forget that you still need time to yourself. You still need a break. You still need to get away from that daily grind, whatever it may be. So you definitely need to do that, and that's also part of mental health, because I think mental health and it is really a lot of things, and I think a lot of those things involve just everyday life. I do believe so, and that's kind of, I don't know if I would say it's my aim as far as my podcast is concerned, but it's a big part of my podcast, to put out things that actually matter and that actually help people, because this podcast is a hobby. It is a hobby, and starting a podcast, if you want to, at least in my opinion, if you want a good quality sound, then it's just me. I'm not saying everybody needs to do this. It's just me. For me, I kept chasing a good sound. So I just, I actually have a mic and a mixer that I just took down, and I put it back in the box because it wasn't, what I was looking for. And I ended up getting a nice mixer and a nice mic, and one that you can adjust the EQ and noise gates and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up being pretty nice. I'm not gonna say it's perfect. It's not the the sound that I'm going for yet, but I'm almost there. I mean, to me, it sounds pretty good. I got it dialed in about 98%. I still need that little 2% to get the sound that I'm actually looking for. But right now, it sounds pretty good. I had adjusted it before. I think it was not yesterday's episode, but the day before. I had adjusted it, and it was horrible. That was a hugely bad mistake. But like I said, you got to create shit to get to where you're trying to go to, because that's just the way it starts, and that's just the way it is. But I'll close my mouth because that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Narrative Mindset Podcast.